People here waiting already just to watch Ian eat his. Is it raisin bread? I do have a mute button for you.
I know you're going to use it. It is. For some reason, I love like sweet bread or bagel with savory topping. Like I've always been like a raisin, bagel, hummus kind of guy. So a grilled cheese with cheddar cheese and the raisins, for some people it's sacrilege, but for me it's like heaven on earth.
No, that sounds good actually. So you'll
The
be
simple things in
you'll
life.
be making that for all of us, right?
Oh, great. I Priority Mail expressed it to you.
Did you now? But did it actually
No.
get into the mail? Is
No,
it sitting in a
just the
box
intention.
somewhere? Yeah.
The intention was expressed.
That's good.
Just receiving an
he's
empty
frozen.
envelope.
He's frozen, so now I get to talk to you, Dr. Brown. Oh, he's
Hi.
back
It was
now.
I had an incoming telephone call, so I clicked off it.
Oh, many people are in in the comments. Gentlemen, you can't see the comments. I'll have to keep you abreast of the situation. Gourmet Pens has arrived to ask raisin bread. Kick him out, because we do know how she feels about raisins. Raisins. We
It's
probably
so
can't even
funny.
say raisins on this show because she'll just
No.
stop watching.
There
Hello,
are other
everyone. in
there are
the
other
chat.
words you can also not use. One of them is plump. We will now
what
gauge
if, what if you
reaction.
had plump raisins?
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Yeah.
Helen is in chat, said, thank God Aziza's not around. Oh, Helen, she is around, and she's already made her feelings known. Speaking of Helen,
Yes.
I got a letter from Helen. Just arrived this week, Helen. And it's right here. Nothing I'm going to share except that Helen is a wonderful individual. And I know this because as soon as I got this letter and Helen mentioned having met Dr. Brown and Aziza, I called Aziza and said, you know this Helen person? And she said, she's wonderful, she's a doll. Because that's what we do in the fountain pen world. When we don't know someone, we call someone who knows that person and we get, like the lowdown. So Helen, you have a good reputation. And thank you very much for your letter. And I'll probably reply.
I still believe that what we need is, first of all, I want people in the audience to comment once again whether I'm shouting or whether I'm just talking in a regular volume at this point. But I think we need a who's who in the fountain pen world. I tried to start this off with Brian Week, which devolved rather rapidly. But
Well, you ran out of Brian's.
yeah,
I
which
heard
was
that.
unfortunate.
Well, isn't
I thought-
Ian English for Brian?
Well, that's what that was my next guess. I would have done Brian Schon, but I thought that would
Yeah, he's
since we had not
three-fifths of
met
the way
yet.
there
I wasn't
anyway,
sure.
so.
I don't know. I don't know these people. I'm happy I have met you now, but I wasn't sure if you would understand the humor. If you thought I would be some sort of insane person, the reality is
The two are not
it's both.
mutually exclusive.
Exactly. So it doesn't really matter. But still,
If you catch me in the winter, I'm Burr, Ian, like cold. So
Nice.
it
Yes.
could be a Brian.
We're going to have to
Technically.
watch this when it's
Yeah.
on your YouTube channel just to see his brain ticking away. How am I going to make a joke out of this? In the winter. I'll say in the winter. It's pretty quick. It's pretty quick.
yes.
But yes, you two have not actually met in person, and in fact
Indeed.
had no contact prior to this. So Dr. Brown, Ian Schon, Stephen Brown. Oh yes, the virtual handshake.
Nice to meet you.
Social
Nice to meet you.
distancing. Everyone is talking, but I think, let me see. Yes, they're all talking to Aziza because, of course, she's the star of the show.
Yeah, we can just go home now. This is the end of the. Like, there's no
We'll
further.
just leave the comments in place. We should probably let Ian know how this works at
Yes, Ian.
at noon your time. Ian, we'll play a little intro video. During that 30-second short video, you will be off screen. The video will be on screen. You will be muted. You have the 30-second window to do anything you want to do that you don't want people to see. And then as soon as I start talking to say this is the beginning of the show, we'll be on screen again. And then it'll be off to the races and we'll all have a good time. I don't think
Indeed.
it's anything you can't handle.
I'm ready.
This certainly isn't your first time on camera.
Camera. I was born on camera.
And that's his regular accent. He's been faking it all this time.
Yeah, terribly good actor. It's definitely my calling.
I do want to ask, I did post, I stole and posted that video of you dancing in your workshop to my Instagram because it was a little ray of sunshine on that day that you did it. But what in the world got into you? You were just very happy that day?
Like it's funny. I think the past couple of, I would even say like before the whole COVID thing, I was setting up machines. I was having some tricky manufacturing challenges. I was having some like I've had a lot of growth this past year. Times where like it's been really hard, contrasted with things that are really great. So I'm kind of like this sine wave of emotions constantly, and especially now when we're kind of like alone and there's like a little despair. I don't get to see my friends, my employees are not coming into work, we're isolated. Whenever I have a chance to or whenever I'm feeling good, I try and capitalize on that, and I try and express joy and get on Instagram and do something to share that joy. And when I'm feeling despair, I just do my push-ups and I try and take a walk outside, and I try and find other ways to feel that despair. But I think like my goal the past couple weeks has definitely been to, when I'm feeling good, like try and make other people feel good, try and spread that joy. So that day was probably one of the first days I was alone in my workshop, and I was crushing on that Waxahachie album because it's just like super good. And I'd been listening to it on repeat for like a couple days for sure. And then that song came on, and I was like, I'm going to make a music video to this. And then lately I found that when I'm alone in the shop, I was like shooting my my photo shoot the other day for my pens, and I posted a video that I made. I was like, I wonder if I could make like a funny video. I was like, this is, just like ways to get people to smile, because I think there's a lot of reasons not to smile right now. So I want to find reasons to smile. I find myself gravitating towards my friends' Instagrams and Facebooks who are posting pictures of their cute kids doing cute things. And I don't know, I'm just like trying to be part of the solution, not the problem here,
Well, you are certainly part of the solution. I think we should just turn the show over to him, Dr. Brown. How do you think about that?
I think I'll go back to bed.
Come on.
Well, you brightened my day so much that I stole that video, and I'm probably not the only
Happy.
one who stole it. So, and now I've shared it with the world without your permission. So this is your opportunity to tell me, get that off your feed. Okay, he didn't say it.
Heavy sigh. Heavy sigh.
2 minutes to actually going live is hello to everyone in the chat. People are saying where they're from, New York, Nova Scotia. Does anyone have trouble hearing any of us in the chat? We should ask that now, while we still have a minute to go.
I want to chat. Can I chat?
You can't chat.
I can't
You
chat.
are not allowed to chat.
Can I pretend like?
Yeah, you can make something up. Nice pillow, by the way. Leaves. Did you make those pillows?
These pillows came to me from my friend Ryo Takahashi. When he moved to Japan, he left this couch and these pillows in Cambridge. So I took them.
Well, we all need friends like that, don't we?
I know. Yeah, it's a leave behind, but it reminds me of him, and that's special
And
too.
now he got a shout out.
Yeah. Shout out to Takahashi-san.
In the 1 minute that remains, I want to discuss what kind of a pen James Bond would use.
Woo!
You would use something with a toxin in it, I think.
Well, I was thinking
Yeah.
a Conway Stewart, because it's English, or a Yardle Lead.
Yeah, but Conway Stewart has been claimed by Kingsman, so that's a rivalry.
All right. So then he'd have to
Spiked.
use. Then someone said Mont Blanc, and I said, well, that's a German pen, but then it would be. It could give someone a heart attack, because when he told people the price of it, that would just have an automatic cardiac arrest. So.
That's true. That's true.
I feel like maybe a vanishing point where you'd press it twice and something else would come out the front,
Yeah,
Like
okay.
first it's
That's on your list of things to do now, Ian. You know that.
Oh, fantastic.
The second one has to be a syringe of some kind.
Yeah, I was thinking it'd be nice to have a vanishing point, like a multi-pen with 4 fountain pens in one.
A multi-pen with 4 fountain pens.
A multi-vanishing point.
All right. I think he wins. We'll give Bond a multi-pen vanishing point, only one of which is a pen, and the other 3 are yet to be determined. I'm going to see about starting this show. What do you think? Are we ready?
I was born ready.
So are we on 2 here? Skype guest, yes. Okay. 30-second video. You'll know we're back on when I start talking. This is That a Pen in Your Podcast episode number 5 for Sunday, April 5th, 2020. We are streaming to you live from the United States and Canada. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, viewers the world over, thank you for joining us today and welcome to another first-class episode of Fountain Pen Television. My name is Eric and with me today, as per usual, the C-3PO to my R2-D2, Professor Dr. Stephen Brown. But wait, there's more. Our special guest, who today we shall call BB-8, Mr. Ian Schon. Gentlemen, how are you?
Rather well.
What's that?
I'm doing all right. Hanging in there.
He's doing rather well. You're doing all right. You're in, I'm pointing at you, Ian. You're somewhere in the state of Philadelphia?
Yeah, I'm in Pennsylvania. I'm in East
State
Falls,
of
Philadelphia.
You are in the city of... Are you technically in
City
Philadelphia?
of Brotherly Love. Yeah, technically in Philadelphia. You're correct. Yeah.
And what is the situation in Philadelphia? Are we on lockdown or stay in place, shelter in place?
We're
stay at home?
stay at home. Staying at home, and it's a beautiful day out. So maybe a casual walk is in order. But for the most part, it's time to hunker down. It's time to make those recipes that you've been avoiding making because they take too long.
Like
now's the time to lean into it.
Raisin bread toast, you mean?
Like raisin bread toast
Raisin
with
bread
cheese,
toast.
Correct. Yeah, I think
cheese.
I had allotted a healthy 9 minutes to make that sandwich, and I only took up 4. So.
And Dr. Brown, how's everything in Canada this morning?
Snowing.
Is it snowing?
Cold.
You have to sit back a little from your microphone there, I think. Or are you trying to do that thing again where we do the modulation?
It was
Was it this thing?
Well,
Does that help?
sort of, yes.
distinctly, I remember it was in bleak December. No, I can sit back. How about this? Is this better?
Yeah,
I can sit back more.
But
How
now
about
you've
this?
changed a little,
Is this
2
better?
steps back now, Dr. Brown, 2 steps back.
No, things are well here. Things are well here. It's still cold, still snowing, so not much has changed. That's all, really. I mean, it's snowing.
Is it snowing a lot or is it just snowing?
It is. We can do the thing with the social distancing where I just pick you up and I just bring you around.
He's actually going to show
know,
us
like-
the snowing.
Yeah.
He's taking us for a walk. All right.
Oh.
All right. That's snow.
A light
Yes.
dusting.
That's
Yes,
a
I
light
would
dusting.
say dusting is about right. Yeah.
Good thing you don't have anywhere to go today, huh?
And since we've no place to go,
Let
etc.,
it snow.
leave it to song
That's-
kinds.
Yes. I should say, although I did this in the green room, I'll do it again now. Stephen Brown, this is Ian Schon. Ian Schon, this is Stephen Brown. These two have not
Nice to
met
meet you.
until 10 minutes ago. And for the viewers here on Stephen's wonderful YouTube channel, Ian is actually a pen maker, in case you didn't know that. He makes Schon Design pens, which is on our list of topics to talk about today, but I think we'll save him till the end. How does that sound, Brown?
Sure.
Sure.
We always save the best for last.
That's right. And we'll just make him sit through whatever it is we're going to talk about before that.
Yes.
If you don't follow me on Instagram, you're missing out on the best post I've ever made. That would be at Mr. Eric Orozco, because it does feature Ian Schon in an off moment, or perhaps that's every one of your moments. I don't know. We don't have cameras in your shop, so.
That's an on moment.
That's an on moment. That's a typical Ian Schon. The first thing I wanted to bring up. Okay, Aziza is just going crazy here. Apparently, we're not allowed to say the word raisin again in this show, which means, of course, I'm going to be saying raisin every other word. But
We can talk about our favorite books. A Raisin in the Sun.
a raisin in the sun, but it has to be a plump raisin in the sun.
We could talk about raising children.
Raising children.
We could talking about.
We'll just let him go. You riff on this. Go ahead.
How about current affairs?
Raising Cane. How about what, Dr. Brown?
I said, how about current affairs?
I don't think she has a problem with currants.
What about a barn raisin?
Barn raisin. You got to get plump in there somewhere, though.
Yeah.
Okay, I have to.
I got nothing. I'm coming up dry. Just like a raisin.
Desiccated.
There, I think. Oh, I just made our first comment in the comments area, Dr. Brown, and it's you who made it because I have taken over your channel.
You are now me.
I am now you. No, I didn't know that. The first thing I want to talk about is something that I found because of Aziza, but I think it was Fountain Pen Memes that started. They wanted to put together a collection of calligraphy exercises and instructions, and they did that. Let me see if I can figure out how to show that on the screen. Yes, there's a URL at the bottom of the screen right now, and we'll put it in the description of the video after the fact. And at that URL, you'll find a bunch of examples and instructions for calligraphy. And this is all because we're socially isolated and we need something to practice, and not all of us have machines with which we can make pens. So we will practice our calligraphy. One of the books in there is it's a book that has been turned in PDF, the Calligrapher's Bible, that has 100 complete alphabets and shows you how to make each letter of those alphabets. So this is quite a resource. And I just wanted to mention that because, I don't know, Ian, do you do any kind of calligraphy?
I am calligraphy curious. I've actually really wanted to get into it, and I'm dying to take a class at a pen show. So maybe someone can watch my booth sometime and I can sneak out and learn to do that.
Well, the next time you and I are at a pen show together, I'll watch your booth and you can go
All
take
right.
a class.
That'll be fantastic.
You return to 0 pens.
Well, that's
Someone
because
will-
I will have
Yeah.
sold them all, and then someone will have stolen the money, and I don't know. I'll think of something.
Oh, yeah.
But Brown, you do some calligraphy. You do some of that Gothic stuff.
Sometimes, yeah. I like it. It's especially the Gothic. I find is something that does take a while to become tolerable, but when it does, it's very satisfying. Like that, I'm by no means am I very good at it, but I do find it is a fun thing to do for sure. And it's just a nice pastime. And if you like pens, you like writing, then I think that's definitely worth something that's worth investing your time in to learn.
And did you take any classes, or did you just teach yourself with online examples?
No, I was born perfect.
Oh,
so
right. We're just moving on there.
You know, no. I did it by myself. But that I would actually recommend taking classes, because you also, if you don't really know what you're doing, some sort of errors sneak in. And if you have good books, you will, and you are a bit critical of yourself, then you will see what you're doing. But a master would say, oh, that slant is wrong, or there's too much space, or whatever, which is harder to do by yourself, I think.
Right, but and I mean, I've played around with calligraphy, but being absolutely perfect at it has never been my goal.
No, I think it should be your goal, because I think that's the charm of calligraphy, that you develop, even if you have a standard, if there even is such a thing. But they take something like foundational, that there is one foundation. It's not like Gothic, we have all kinds of weird fractures and stuff, and it's your foundational, right? So you do that script your way, and there's a proper way to do it, but you can play around a little bit with it. I think that's the charm.
Yeah, it's your own hand.
Section.
So it's the font of your hand.
Exactly.
So I did put Ian's website up at the bottom of the screen, because the people in the comments were screaming for it. And I just wanted to mention that I had moved away from the calligraphy URL and put up Ian's URL so that the people can find you as they're watching you.
This is an amazing collection of calligraphy that you have shared here.
I did not put this together. I don't know who put it together. Aziza can probably tell us more, but there is quite a bit of information at that link that will be in the description of this video, and it should keep anyone very busy for quite some time.
This is awesome.
Well, there you go. So you just start with that calligrapher's Bible there, Ian. And
Wow. I love how it fades out. Ugh, I'm such a noob, but it's so cool. This is like the perfect thing because you can. Oh man, I love it. I love it.
and
Very
you
exciting.
can learn calligraphy in your spare time.
Yes, indeed.
'Cause you have
Spare
so much of
time. Yes.
Speaking of pen shows, and you do remember you did bring it up. This weekend was supposed to be the Atlanta Pen Show, right?
Yeah.
It was canceled. Did either of you catch Ryan Krusak's online pen show? He did it yesterday.
I did
You're
not.
going to say no. I should have asked that question before the green room even started. So
I saw the preview.
right
saw
the
the
preview.
preview.
Well, he did the preview. I think I don't even remember. You know, days float together now. He did the preview of videos that were not live that he posted to his feed, and then he did a very long video showing the pens in a live feed in Instagram. His pens are just gorgeous, and I bring this up because it's still going on. He's doing an Atlanta pen show at home that also is a benefit to Brooks, Mr. Brooks. I think it's Jonathan Brooks.
It is.
19% of sales through the end of today, let's say 5 p.m. Eastern, will go to the Brooks family, a worthy cause. But his pens are just gorgeous. I am familiar with the pens. I think both of you are familiar with the pens. Both wood and the, naturally shed antler that he does his scrimshaw on. I am a fan of Cocobolo, but you should go check that out. I should probably put his website up here somewhere.
Yeah. I'm looking at his I'm looking at his Instagram right now. There are some really stunning pieces that are there. I've seen a lot of his stuff in person at the pen shows, but it's magnificent. So if you haven't seen his work, definitely check it out. It's
fantastic, fantastic
stunning.
pen. I'm a big fan of the Legends in all their sizes, and Cocobolo. And I saw one. It was not a mermaid, but a siren on the barrel, and the cap was wood. But there were fish scales on the barrel, which I found quite eye candy-ish.
Were these carved fish scales, or were these
I have to tell
fish
you,
scales?
Stephen, I'm sorry to interrupt, but your wife is in the comments saying, Eric, can you ask Stephen to sit back a bit? The banner is cutting off his face. So since it's your wife, I thought I better pass that along. Is that enough, Aziza? You'll just tell us.
This will work. I can adjust this. No, I can't adjust this. I have to put it on, so I have to prop it up now. My God.
I have a question.
Hmm?
Eric, did you see you saw Ryan's live stream?
I was watching it, yes.
Was he wearing an incredibly handsome outfit?
He was just like a pen show. It started with him making his own latte with latte art, just as if we had seen him at a pen show. You can come a little closer, Dr. Brown. You seem like you're in a different province
sure.
there.
How about this?
Gourmet Pens does say thank you.
Oh, thank you. Yes.
And he had on his crushed blue velvet and a pink
Yes.
shirt, and so he took us on a tour of his pens. And as the camera panned down to look at pens, I saw, because his wife was doing the video, I thought, oh, his wife is barefoot. Wait a minute, that's not her feet. He's barefoot, right? And so he's wearing longboard shorts basically, but they're multicolored, unicorn colored. So from the waist up, he was at a pen show, and he tried to convince everybody that is what he usually wears at a pen show. When he's behind his table, he's in those shorts too. So yeah, his live video is probably still up on Instagram if you want to watch all those pens and see.
It is, however, no longer live.
Pity that.
No, it's just a video.
Just a video. Oh, just a video.
Just a video.
Let's see. RKS pens. I had. I'm going to put up another. Let's see. I'm going to pull up an image here because I want to talk about Anderson pens for a moment. Because Brian Anderson of Anderson Pens has been a collector of fountain pens for a lot longer than we've been using fountain pens. And he has amassed a huge collection of vintage fountain pens that he amassed knowing that they would need one day's restoration. But he has realized that he has too many, that he'll never be able to restore them all. So he's selling off lots, and I mean in lots, a huge number of unrestored vintage fountain pens in lots on eBay. And they're gorgeous lots, and they're starting at very, very reasonable prices. I've got a couple pictures on the screen right now, and you can go to eBay and look for Anderson pens, or you can follow the URL that is in the banner on the screen right now. Because some of these are starting at $30, some are starting at $50, some are starting at $75. When I looked yesterday, the highest one, and there's 10 pens in these slaughter boxes, the highest bid was 107. These are going to be some good deals if you happen to be a person who enjoys or wants to learn about fountain pen restoration. I don't personally have an interest in it. I would rather learn the calligraphy. But lots of people, so you want to restore a fountain pen. Where do you find a fountain pen to restore? Well, eBay is your best bet, and these are some pretty good deals at the moment.
I have heard the number 24,000 pens that he owns.
Oh, that's just his personal collection.
Oh, I see.
Those are not the ones that need restoration.
Right. No, that makes sense.
And I did look at his auctions there, and each slaughter box has 10 pens, and below he lists each pen, what it is, and the condition, whether it's just a parts pen or could be restored. So it's not like a grab bag, take it or leave it.
Well, that's nice. So that like basically just tube or something. That
Right.
This just this at best this could be used as a snorkel when I'm going out for a swim.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, useful. Very nice. A good opportunity.
Who's our friend over there in the Netherlands with the pen shop? The name starts with a J, I think.
I think there are many, but yours is one. You need something.
Oh, I don't think he watches, because we've mentioned him on every show and he's never said anything.
I know.
So
I know. I need to have.
The same with Ian. We've talked about Ian every show, and he's never said, "Hey,
I know.
But sorry, guys.
I do follow his Instagram account, and I did notice. I'll put it on the screen now that Mont Blanc has released the third and final, I hope, Petit Prince, and this one is wood. It's a redwood. I don't know what it is. Burgundy colored wood on the barrel and the cap.
See, now this is where we need Ryan Krusak, but now he's not here. I mean, this is when you need someone to identify a piece of wood, and it's just the expert is missing.
I will say that the thing I like about my Petit Prince is the star that is at the bottom of the clip, and this one has that, but also the cap, the wood on the cap has the star all over it, like debossed into the wood. So for the benefit of the audience, I'm showing a picture of this. You two, of course, can't see it. And the nib, I guess it's the rose on the nib, the rose from the book, which was a star of the book, of course. But I think Mont Blanc did themselves a great favor by licensing the Petit Prince, because they have made hay with this. They have been releasing and releasing and releasing. And of course, I have mine. So and it's one of my favorites, pens. I couldn't possibly get the entire collection, but do I want the entire collection? Of course I want the entire collection. It's kind of like wanting the entire collection of the pens that Ian makes. You want them all, just to hang them on your wall and make a shadow box because they're gorgeous, but you could never do that.
Be too many pens.
Never too many.
I wonder if Mont Blanc now has more Petit Prince pens than there are actually pages in the book, because at this point it's...
well, it is a rather short book, and if you count all of the things that they've been doing with it, yes, I'll probably. But, they probably paid some good money for that, too.
Yeah, I don't know, they're milking this one, that's for sure. But,
well, they're doing exactly what I had for a long time hoped that Pelican would do, and they did start doing that, is all of their really, really beautiful pens would come out in the 1000 or the 800.
Yes.
And I wanted them to move those exact things down through the 600s and the 400s, and they are doing that. Of course, they're just. The problem is, if I only want a 200 or a 400, then I'm happy. But if I want the 1000 and the 800 and the 400, take my money, Pelican. So they're just trying to cover all the market. All the market. I have mine, so I'm happy. I guess.
Yeah, but now are you sure you don't want to trade it in for the wooden one?
No, if I wanted a wooden pen, it would be a Ryan Krusak. And he could put those stars on there.
That's the thing.
As soon as we're done here, I'm going to call him. Can you put stars on
Commission
there?
a custom piece.
Yeah.
Custom piece.
I won't tell anybody. I won't tell anybody. The other thing I wanted to mention was the Platinum 3776 Carnelian came out this week. I will put a photo on the screen. It is, what would I call that? It's like a bright red orange, supposedly inspired by the lights in a Tokyo nightclub. We'll get back to you on that one, Ian. This is a North American exclusive, and as you know, Dr. Brown, as we have talked, I've never owned a Platinum, and that would include never having owned a 3776. This, however, looks like a nice pen. I like it because the color speaks to me.
The color is nice.
The color is attention grabbing. I think of the three of us in this room, only one of us may have been at a Tokyo nightclub. And he may not be able to admit it on the air.
Well, yeah, it's funny. I haven't been out clubbing in Japan, but it's definitely on my short list in my next visit in November. I also want to learn a karaoke song, and I want to learn it in Japanese, and I want to surprise my distributor by, going up and singing an entirely Japanese song without him knowing. Are you taking
requests?
I think I might be.
Or do you already
especially
know
if you have an easy to learn one would be great, because I know it's not going to be in English. But wow, this pen is beautiful. It's got it's a very it's red, translucent. It almost looks like there's some speckles in it, but it might be the photo that I'm looking at on Pen Chalet that is different. But it's pretty. It makes me want to go to a nitclub in Tokyo.
Did you
That's
see
all I'm
how
saying.
he snuck in the name of a retailer? We didn't authorize that, did we?
It'll be redacted. Don't worry.
It was the first link.
Do they carry your pens?
I don't think so.
No, he doesn't know who carries his pens.
No.
No, then we're good.
No, they don't carry my pens.
We've already snuck in Applebaum.
He's a what?
We already snuck in the name of a Dutch vendor, so it's okay.
Oh,
it's
yes,
okay.
Yes,
We can sneak in.
Everyone gets one pass. Oh, it does have sparkles in it.
And he likes the sparkles, Dr. Brown.
I'm a fan.
I'll tell you what. You buy the pen, and for just $100, I'll put on sparkles with some nail polish for you. Done.
Deal.
There we go.
You're gonna be like the Bucamundo, but instead of doing a Rushi lacquer, you're just gonna have sparkles. We'll call you Dr. Sparkle.
Yes.
And I'll bring you'll have a table at the pen show, and I'll bring my pens to you, and you'll very thin layers of sparkle nail polish.
Oh, you don't know him, Ian. They're not going to be thin layers. He's going to take the pen and dip it in the bottle.
He's going to give me a little bit of the...
This way afterwards. So that
and I think it was last week we had the whole discussion about glitter, so we don't have to do that again. Ian can go back and watch the last episode.
Yeah.
Fair. Duly noted.
Who knows anything about Armando Simoni or...
A little bit.
Asti Spumanti?
First time.
Yeah, that's a fancy looking pen they got.
Another online pen show was done over the weekend by Dromgools in Texas. I want to say Houston, but I could be wrong, so I'm just going to say Texas.
Texas.
Okay, Houston. He says Houston. And they do sell your pens. And it was fun because they set up a table much like they do at a pen show with just a bunch of trays of pens. They had the camera scrolling through everything and 50 people watching, and all 50 people are trying to ask questions. It was a madhouse. It was like, I was about to say it's kind of like the Franklin Christoph table when the pen show first opens, because that's exactly what it was. But one of the things that caught my eye was an Armando Simoni Seafoam Oversized. I will put a picture up here so that everyone at home can see this. This looks beautiful. I know nothing about it. I was hoping maybe you did, Stephen.
About this particular pen, I know precious little.
Precious little. It's oversized, so it must be large. It's about the same size as...
I have the Brown Arco model of that pen. It is a large pen and a heavy pen. because it has that compressor filling system, and it has a brass liner, so they are big and heavy, but they are beautiful, well made, and this is a very pretty finish. I agree. I don't think it is actually seafoam. I think it's Italian. I think it is Sea Foam.
Oh, say I foam. Well, thank you for correcting us on that.
Yeah. No, always a pleasure.
It caught my eye. It caught my eye.
I like that little roller on the clip there. That's
Yeah.
always a nice detail. It seems very challenging to make. It gives me a little bit of a headache, but I whenever I see it on a pen, I'm just like, yeah, that's sweet. I know many people do it, but I'm just like, oh, what a nice detail.
It is beautiful. What do you suppose the material is, Stephen?
Of this pen?
Yeah.
Or of the clip?
No, the pen.
Yeah. I'm guessing it is some sort of acrylic. I find it hard to believe that would be celluloid.
I wouldn't think so. It looks acrylic, but I can't say. And
Well, we can buy one, try and set it on fire. If it catches fire easily, then we know it was celluloid
you
and
can
we're
buy
done.
one and try to set it on fire. Actually, the
Yes.
price didn't knock me out of my chair. I don't even want to say what the price was, but it wasn't as high as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, then it must have been acrylic.
Okay.
Nice.
Must have been, because I think that their celluloid models are all 1,000 plus. So
Okay, then it's not a celluloid.
Yeah.
We had earlier spoken of vanishing points and perhaps giving one to James Bond. I do want to mention something I heard. I believe I heard it at the Drum Ghouls pen show, online pen show, about the Platinum Kuridas. I will throw the picture up here because this is Platinum's answer to the retractable fountain pen. And we've all been waiting anxiously for them to arrive in the United States. And what they said on their pen show was that they will be shipping from the distributor on Monday. So they should make it to your retailer where you purchased it sometime this week. What they did throw in was that they did not get any of the extra fine nibs. So if that's what you ordered, you're still going to be waiting. And they seem to indicate that not the entire order came from Platinum, so it's not 100% that you're actually going to get your pen. I suppose that, I don't know this, but I suppose if I were a retailer, I would send out on a first come, first serve. Whoever purchased first would get theirs first. But it does seem as if they will show up this week because they are in the country.
So
Wow.
the conclusion is we don't get all the pens, we don't get the nibs we ordered, so
Well, I didn't order one of these.
there
myself.
are some
I didn't
potentially
order.
one or two pens.
I assume that I will see one in the wild someday, and then I'll see whether or not I like it. I think they're pretty looking pens, and the price point is very nice. But I will wait till I see one.
Yeah.
I saw one at one of the pen shows earlier in the year. I'm not sure that I was supposed to see it, but I saw it in person. So I won't name who showed it to me. And it's
all know
a
who
very
it was.
it's a very technical pen. And I thought it's like strikingly technical with the clear material, and you see all the different ways that the parts mate together, all the springs, the mechanism, which to me is very intriguing because a lot of the pens, when you go to a pen show, you're seeing a little bit more artful representation, limited editions that have a specific theme on them. And this pen is like pure tech. It's like, hey, we wanted to do a vanishing point style pen, and I want to show you how much work we put into it, which the clear material really speaks to that. But I'd love to see it in an opaque material with some sparkles, perhaps, something that's a little bit more of a decorated version of this pen. So I'm excited to see where it goes in the future. I mean, what I really want to see is this Kuridas Bokumundo'd out. I want to see it with the urushi and a little some makie, because I think it would be such a weird contrast of this highly technical achievement, frankly, that they've achieved with this pen, especially for the cost. And then just to see it decorated like more of a traditional pen would be stunning.
So you've actually held one in your hands. Are you familiar with vanishing points?
I've seen them. I haven't owned one,
But you've held one before?
I've held one, yeah.
So the Kuridas looks a bit girthier to me. Is that true?
It's I remember distinctly that it was longer. It's and the throw of the spring, like how far you have to depress it, is quite long.
I thought the first pictures I saw, I thought what some people call the knock that you push down. looked quite long. But then I came and I looked at my vanishing point and said, well, you're kind of long too. So
Right.
I haven't seen them side by side, and so I might even be misjudging the girthiness of the Kuridas. But I mean, you can't
It's a
beat the price.
two-handed operation. You hold it with one hand, and then with the other hand, you push in that thing all the way
And then what?
until it
A
clicks.
number 8
and
nib comes out the other
Right.
side
Yeah.
That's when you can write that.
with folded shoulders so that it fits.
Yeah.
Oh man, I'm wondering right now. This is a weird question. Now, if anyone gets the Curidas, I have a very, very odd question for you. Definitely send me a DM if you figure this out. Is if the stroke on when you push the pen in to push out the nib, if it's a 1-to-1 ratio or if there's a stroke multiplier, like stroke multiplier being something where you'd put in, 1.0 of your stroke and you'd get out 0.8 or you'd get out 2x. Like if there's a mechanism in there to retract further, because I'm very curious.
And you're guessing
when I
it's
was-
1-to-1, aren't you?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm not sure. I'm not
because
sure.
of the length of that knock thing. If they had been able to put in a stroke multiplier, it would probably be much smaller.
Be shorter.
Yeah,
But it would require a lot more force. So I'm curious to see even if it's less than 1.1-to-1, if it's like 1 to 0.8 or 1 to 0.75. I'm very curious because then it would require less input force. So the engineer in me wants to buy this pen right now and then tear it apart and just take it to pieces and just do a tear down, which was one of my favorite hobbies, is just taking things apart and never putting them back together, or taking them apart and figuring out what everything is made of and counting the number of pieces in an assembly.
Did
Like you ever take apart a light switch? It's like amazing.
And then you
It's
take a
like 50
picture of
parts
it all
in there.
taken apart, right?
Oh, yeah.
An
Oh, yeah.
exploded view of whatever it is.
We used to have a website in my old work, and we would call it Explosions in Reverse, and we would kind of knoll being the Tom Sachs term for like laying out objects in a big array so that things feel organized. But we'd take these beautiful pictures of these exploded products, and we would do Friday teardowns where someone would go to the Goodwill or use the electronics store and buy like an old telephone, and we tear it apart and just marvel at all the little springs and the nuances. But this Curidas for me is just looks like it's just rearing to be taken apart and exploded into a billion pieces, which is exciting. I wonder how many parts there are.
I was just going to ask you about your pens. If I took this apart, how many parts would I get? If you take...
1, 2, 3 for the nib, 3 parts for the nib because it comes apart into a housing, a feed, and a nib.
Okay.
We got our section. We got the O-ring. We got the cap. We got the body. I'm going to count the cartridge, and then I'm going to count the last part. The most important part is the grease. Some people they don't count the grease as one of the parts of the pen, but it's so critical to function. There's a little silicone grease in there.
I was going to mention that, but
yeah, it's greasy. What I do is I take my hands and I run it through my hair a bit, and then I roll the O-ring in that, and that's what gives it the special. It's good.
Moving on. So
Moving
the
on.
last thing I want to talk about before we talk about Schon Design pens is thanks to Instagram, I saw a new color ring come out this week. They're called, you're familiar with color rings, are you, gentlemen?
Yes.
Now they have the smaller size. They're calling them dippers. I will put a picture up here. They are 1 inch by 2.5 inch sheets. You only get 50 instead of 100, but they are much easier to just push down in your bottle of ink, which is what all of us were doing with our color rings anyway. And so I thought this was brilliant. And
I love this.
I will open it up to you people to make a comment now that I've done the spiel on this.
I think for me, the coloring, I actually just bought one at the Baltimore Pen Show from Anna, and
Was it this size or the regular size?
the regular
Okay.
size,
Yeah,
the
they're
regular
cool. They're
size.
fantastic. I love them.
Yeah, and I'd seen them around, like people taking photos of them on Instagram, and what I loved about them in general is that they promoted the sharing culture of fountain pens. This, hey, why don't you try my pen? It's got this ink in it, and people are categorizing and sharing and creating these artifacts that are so, that are just so special. To me, like seeing this finished dipper coloring with all the different hues and like how some of the inks sheen out there, it's awesome. And it just reminds me of the people and their habits and the sharing culture. So this product always makes me smile because it's so simple, yet it's like a very
but
distilled.
extremely needed and fun and
Oh yes,
affordable. They are very, very affordable. Not to change the subject, but I'm going to. Dan in our comment section says there is a new pilot retractable coming out, the Capless LS. Says, I think it's only available in Japan. I do believe it is now only available in Japan, but it is coming to North America in the fall, per John Lane at Pilot Pen USA.
What is different about it? You have the decimal, or the decimo, I don't know, I suppose.
I think it's slightly larger than a vanishing point. But other than that, by larger, I think I mean girthier, but I don't know. I haven't seen one. One or two colors at least, perhaps more. I did see John was in a live. What am I spending my life on Instagram? But anyway, Atlas Stationers in Chicago did a trivia live feed, and John Lane was one of the persons who came on and asked questions, and he showed this pen. So that's the only thing I know about it. Is that
that's pretty cool.
He did say that the retail price was going to be $550, which I thought, what? So I did look afterwards, and I'm seeing it somewhere listed for $350, but it's not here yet, so who knows what's really going to happen. And there was one more for you, Ian. I'm going to try to say this name from the chat. Simmerjeet says that the ratio is 1-to-1 with a slight bounce at the end.
Ooh.
So
ooh la la.
I assume you know what that means.
Cool. No stroke multiplier.
Right. We figured that just based on the length of the
I know, it's just simpler. I kind of like want to see it. Like, you know, a typewriter, when you push a typewriter, the stroke is like, you know, half an inch.
I'm sorry. What's a typewriter?
And then the arm, the arm is just like whoosh, whoosh. It does this huge motion from such a small input, and it's purely mechanical. It's just so good. It seems like there's an opportunity for it, but again, I haven't successfully done it, so who am I to say?
I think I once saw a movie where a woman had ordered a pizza, and when the delivery guy came, she didn't have any money, and it ended with a stroke multiplier.
Oh yes, I've seen a similar film.
Could you explain that to me? I'm not quite sure how that works.
I can. Yes. She took off anyway. So yeah.
Okay, Marie in the chat says 350, and I assume she means that's what you will see this Capless LS for. I'm not sure why John said 550.
For that money, I might buy a couple Curadoses and let the doctor over here fix them with a little bit of a sparkle.
For less than 350, you can get a Ryan Krusak.
That's true.
And for about 350, you can get 3 of the pens that we're going to talk about now, which are Schon Design. Ian Schon of Schon Design Pens. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm 30 years old. I live in Philadelphia, and I manufacture pens, and I kind of fell into it. I'm gonna be honest. Like, I wasn't really a pen person much in college, but I remember sitting down at a lecture once, and I was sitting next to my friend Mike, and he had this really cool like metal pen. I think it was an embassy pen. It's like a machined metal pen, and I picked it up and I was like, this is sweet. Where did you get this? What's the deal with this? And he's like, oh, it's, this machined pen, and it's cool. It's got a space pen insert. And I was struck with it, and I started sketching with it immediately and drawing up. I said, this would be a great project for me to machine a pen, because at the time I was really into taking big metal and making it into smaller, more interesting metal, which is kind of like my life's purpose at this point. And I was like, oh, I can take a block of aluminum and I can machine the outside, and I can put some threads on it, and I'll drill out the center, and I'll make a pen, and I'll put it in my pocket. And that way I get to celebrate manufacturing every day. I get to make something and use it all the time, and then share it with others and say, hey, I made this pen, and then see their eyes light up, or not. Maybe they don't care. But if they do care, engage them and say, oh, you could make this too. Why don't we go to the machine shop in the school together, the student machine shop, which I was working in at the time, and let's make something together, be it a bottle opener, be it a little, a hook for your desk so you can hang something on it. Let's make something that is bigger than the sum of its parts. Let's make something and imbue it with the value of working on it together, like and remembering this time when you were in school and learning how to machine. And I don't know, like I got really into the idea of like object culture, like thinking about the way things were designed, the way things were manufactured, and who made them for you, right? So, let's say I got a buddy and they make you a leather wallet. It's not just the leather and the stitching and the cutting that makes it special. It's that person and that moment when you got that as a gift, or how you interacted with that person and, had this wallet made or what have you. So I got really into this idea, and I was finishing up my degree in mechanical and manufacturing engineering, and I was gearing up for a career in product development. And as I was gearing up for, job interviews and putting together a portfolio, part of the portfolio was this machined pen that I had made. I had made one ballpoint pen in aluminum and then made a couple more. And I was applying for jobs. And around the same time, my friends were bugging me. They said, hey, Ian, let me get one of those machine pens that you make. Why don't you make me one of those? And I'd be like, oh, yeah, sure. And I'd go back to my workshop, which was at the time in my parents' garage in Baltimore for a summer. And I would spend 6 hours trying to make them a pen, and inevitably would fail and start over. And, I'd make one pen. I'd be like, this isn't sustainable. So eventually I launched a small production run with a local machine shop in Massachusetts. Gotcha. And it enabled me to get in their doors and learn about the process of designing something from scratch, and not just making it myself and prototyping it myself, but having a scaled production. Like, what does that even mean? 1,000 pieces. What does that even mean? So I was learning by doing, and I made a batch of 1,000 pens. I put them on Kickstarter. I was very fortunate, and it kind of took off like wildfire, and I sold a number of pens. And also that week I got my first job offer in engineering and design. So I had accepted my job offer and accidentally started a pen company the same week. This is about 2012. And for about like 6 years, I was, working as a designer and as an engineer at a couple different product development firms, and designing medical devices, consumer electronics, audio equipment, a lot of like scientific instrumentation. And nights and weekends, I'd make pens. And I'd keep playing with this pen company that I had accidentally started, and say, oh, well, what if I do an anodized version? What if I do a brass version? And what if I do a cap version?
And were you making 1,000 of each when you did these versions?
I was making anywhere between 200 pieces to 2,000 pieces in a run.
Wow, okay.
Because the economies of scale were really important to be able to afford to sell them at the price I was selling them for, and to like run the business, quote unquote. I was learning as I was going how to run a business, which is like still very funny to me. But I would like make these batches of pens and make them in a way that I could try and sell them to local stores that sold high-end jeans and menswear and accessories. And I had no pen stores really carrying them. Up until around maybe 2017, which was the year I quit my job to go full into pen manufacturing, I started going to the pen shows. And I remember going to my first DC pen show. It was the first pen show I ever went
17?
to. I think it was either 17 or 18. I'm not quite. I don't remember exactly, but I remember going to that show.
Stephen, weren't you
I
there?
think so.
In Stephen.
If I was,
I was there, yes.
Yeah.
But I don't remember. But then again, I didn't really look at any pens in that show, so I just don't remember.
Okay. Anyway,
yeah.
17 or 18.
I was in
your first pen
the
show.
small room. Yeah, small room, and I was drinking from the fire hose, and I was sitting next to JJ Lax, the nib grinder, and I'd wander off into the show every once in a while and come back just dumbstruck at the volume of pens and how many people were there, and I was numb almost. I couldn't understand. So JJ took me under his wing and started showing me some of the grinds that he was doing for customers, and showing me specific pieces that he was working on for people. And he taught me a bit about fountain pens that day. And I left that show having talked to a lot of.
This is because up until now you're not making fountain pens. You're making ballpoints.
Correct.
Okay.
Totally correct. Yeah, I hadn't made a fountain pen, until last year. Last year was the first year I manufactured a fountain pen to sell. But up until that point, I really didn't understand fountain pens. But thanks to the wonderful sharing culture in this community, people were really kind to walk up to my table and look at the pens, even if they weren't interested in them, give me some good feedback, say which colors they liked or what materials they like or what they'd like to see, which I thought was very generous of them with their time and their opinions. And they would also show me pens that they purchased at the show and said, "Oh, look at what I found. It's a vintage pen and it's got this beautiful flex nib." And I said, "Oh, what's a flex nib?" And they would let me write with it and show me. And I remember purchasing a couple vintage pens. I purchased a couple modern pens. I got a Bexley from Joshua. And I left that show. I think Anna also gave me a desk pen with a big cap on it, just like a funky, cool desk pen. And it was just, I just left with so many great like things to play with. A couple Kaweco Sports as well. And I went home and I started thinking about how I could make a fountain pen. And at this time, I was kind of working out of my house still. I was on my own, left my job, but I was working out of my workshop in my house. And I was noodling around the idea of making a fountain pen. But I felt like a little bit of pause when I was designing my first fountain pen around 2017, probably late 2017, because the community was amazing. And there really was everything there. I went to the show and I saw every pen, and I saw there's so much there. The space is very full. Like what's undeveloped in the fountain pen space. And at the time, and even now, I'm still a fountain pen beginner. I've really only been into fountain pens since late 2017, I'd say. So I'm still learning a lot about this rich landscape. But what I didn't see a lot of that I really enjoyed were pocket pens. And, I saw some vintage shorter pens like, that were hanging from a necklace. And I saw some ring tops. Yeah, they're beautiful, and small mechanical pencils and like Gia shade silver, just like all these beautiful little pens from like the 20s. And then there was the Kawecos, and Kaweco does a very good job of providing incredible value for these pocketable pens. But what I didn't like was I left this Kaweco on my desk, inked up naturally, as I do, a beginner fountain pen user, not cleaning any of my pens. And it dried up. The nib and all the ink got saturated in there, and it got all clogged up. And I was cleaning it, and I was thinking about this. I said, there should really be a seal here in the cap. So I started to kind of mull over the design details that I'd want to add to a pocket pen. And I said, okay, it needs to have a seal, because I don't like having to account for my pens. Like, I don't like having to say, oh, I put my Kaweco Sport in my backpack. Let me make sure I take it out at the end of the day so I don't jostle it around or, and go on a hike with it and have it spill out everywhere or what have you, or let it dry out. So I had to account for these pens. And I say, it would be really nice to have a little bit lower fuss fountain pen, but still have that craft element that I saw from, I think at that show I'd seen Edison pens, I'd seen Ryan's work, I'd seen a couple other small pen makers, and I was really inspired by the beautiful things that they were making. But for me, metal is my medium. So I wasn't going to make, a pen made out of resin material or a plastic. I wasn't going to do any woodworking, because I don't even know woodwork. Woodworking to me is still black art. I have no idea how that stuff works. So I left that show and I said, I'm going to make a small fountain pen. And I made a couple prototypes, and then over the years, finally it gelled. Like I think I made a couple bad promises. I said, next year I'm going to have a fountain pen at the show, mark my word. And I was completely wrong. I lied, unintentionally,
I think
of course.
I heard that at the Philly show in what year is this? In 19.
Yes.
And this year you did have. And in
I
fact, I have one.
delivered.
And
Yeah.
speaking of seals, where is the seal in this cap?
So it's inside of the cap, just past the threads.
Because you can feel it.
It's very hard to see.
You can feel it.
Yeah,
I can't see it.
And the goal with that was to keep the nib wet, mostly.
So just keep it from drying out.
Keep it from drying out. And, when I think about products that I love products that like have really solid feedback, right? The product, when you're engaging with it from the user interface standpoint, it tells you something as you're engaging with it. Like when you turn a key on the lock and it goes pop, and it like pops into place and just locks, and it's a satisfying click that tells you you don't need to twist the key anymore.
Yes.
You're finished. Yes. You've locked the door. So for me, when you're twisting the thread down and you feel the seal engage,
you do feel it,
and then
it's obvious,
it's obvious, and then you tighten it.
When
it
stops, it stops.
For me, that's emotionally, that's like
that's
like my pen
without mine.
Oh man, I appreciate that.
Let me just see if I have some pictures of some of your pens. Let's see here. I've got. I don't know the names of these pens. I mean, I know the model. I don't know the colors. These are the ones that include that cinnamon one.
Yes, cinnamon suminagashi.
Suminagashi, that's the ancient Japanese art of stone masonry, right?
Yeah, something like this. No, I think it's from what I understand, it's the art of marbling.
Right, marbling. There was
marbling,
a stone involved
yes.
somewhere.
Oh, stone. Oh my God. I walked right into that one, didn't I? Chunk. Yeah, it's a process. Like if you've seen marbled paper or books that have a marbled cover or pieces of marbled paper inside of them, or marbled wallpaper, you're laying an ink on top of another liquid that is a little bit denser, that pushes the ink to the surface. So the ink is floating on the surface of this denser liquid, which is usually, like in paper marbling, you have like an algae mixed with water, and it kind of floats the ink on the top. And you can make a pattern with it with a little needle, and you can make stripes. And if you want to, if you're sitting at home and you're bored this weekend, Google some paper marbling videos, and it's just fascinating stuff. You'll watch them use these beautiful tools to create these very organic looking swirly patterns in these inks, and it's beautiful. The history of it and the tactile nature of it is beautiful. Anyways, so we use a similar technique. My anodizer and I collaborate to make these finishes.
Right, I've switched the photo out now to the other one that includes the summer snow cone, so you know which picture I'm talking about. So these are the, these are the brighter colors.
Yeah. I mean, I tried, like this set represents a lot of the things that I've been happy with in the past couple of launches. You know, some of the more galactic cosmos styles with like lots of funky colors, very bright, a lot of pop, like candy-like, and then some that are a little bit more traditional, I would say, in what we'd expect from a fountain pen, like the blue and silver. You know, the blue and silver together, that's a very traditional colorway in the fountain pen space. So I try to touch upon things that I've seen out there. Or black.
Now, I have to tell you, the reason I got a black one is because it's numbered. Now, you don't number them anymore, because I remember you saying you're never going to number these things again.
No. I'm never going to number the Pocket 6 again. I think I may do another numbered edition just because it brought a smile to certain people's faces as they purchase them. And it's like, hey, for me, stamping a number on the first 100 signifies the first 100 of the batch. I hand stamped them, and it made people happy to look for, you know, certain people, they'll walk to my table and they look for a specific pattern within a color, or like, oh, I want that color, but with a little more yellow, or what have you. And this was like another layer. Oh, I'm looking for that pattern, but I also want one of the first 100 number ones. And this was DC of last year when I launched those. And I had a few stragglers remaining in my workshop, and some that were supposed to go to Japan that didn't, or some that were just sitting on my shelf for some reason, or I had kept it. So I brought some of those to Philly, and I think that's where you snagged one of those.
By the time I got to your table in Philly, you had 2 left, and I got one, and Michael Ward got the other one. And then later on, he says to me, "Could we switch? I like your number better." I said, "I don't even know what number I have." Yes, we can switch.
Yeah, it was a fun exercise. I'm trying to find, like, you know, like in the vintage fountain pen space, there are all these layers of like history and condition and you know, what's the which model did you have? How many years was it produced? And that vintage pen search is so rich, and there's all these variables and all the things that make for that perfect find at one of these pen shows. And I love that. Yes. I absolutely love that culture. So how can we as modern pen makers celebrate that and bring in, even as a small maker, bring in these little details that make it so fun later for people to reflect upon this object? oh, it was part of the first 100, or, oh, remember this color came out, but this one's a little bit more navy than the next edition, or I can tell that it's an original one because of X, Y, or Z, or I can tell that it was one of the early Pocket Sixes because he doesn't make these colors anymore, or what have you. So I like kind of celebrating what I see in the pen space and trying to create similar themes for people to engage with my work as an artist. And it's fun. I love that aspect of design.
Are people
I think
engaging?
so. Yeah, I mean, I think I've gotten a lot of positive feedback with the Pocket Six, because I think what folks were looking for in modern pen manufacturing, something that's a little bit, if you look at like, the retractable pen, it's very technical. With a lot of the handmade pens, because of the nature of the work and how expensive it is to buy some of the modern manufacturing equipment, I think the customers would love to see more technical pens from makers. Like, for instance, when you see like Edison pens has like the filling mechanisms, they're technical. Those are difficult to engineer and manufacture. And he's accomplished it, and it's a huge win. It's beautiful. It's great. So I'm in the spirit of that, bringing some of my technical background to the fountain pen space to give the maker side of things a little bit more technical punch. So with the seal design and with, thinning out the wall of the cap to fit that number 6 nib versus a number 5 nib in my pens, trying to find ways to add value in terms of the pocketability, what have you, and put a lot of engineering thought into my work, because I have invested in more, I would say, advanced manufacturing equipment. So, yeah, I'm very excited to see what the next 10 years brings in the pen making landscape, because I'm seeing a lot of peers move into this space or have been in this space, and kind of like we're communicating, we're talking. How do we collaborate? How do we share knowledge across different pen makers? Hey, we're not all just using a die and a tap anymore that we bought from a website. We're not all making kit pens anymore. We have unique designs. And how do we elevate the craft from the maker perspective? And I'm really excited to see, what Matthew Martin is going to come up with next. I'm really excited to see what Ryan is doing with the laser. It's just there's so much amazing stuff happening. So I don't know. I'm pumped, but it's
You seem like it.
I don't know. I get excited when I talk.
Let's just talk about this particular pen. You call it the Pocket 6 because it is
Correct.
6 inches long, correct?
Yeah. Yes. Is that the name of the podcast here? Is that a
The name of the podcast is that a pen in your podcast?
Is that a Pocket 6 in your pocket?
Now, I think the name of the podcast is that 6 inches long, but it may give people a very interesting idea of what the podcast is about.
Yeah.
Actually, I was just leading you. I was trying to let you have an opportunity to tell us why it's called the Pocket 6, because it is the 6
yes, thank
inches
you.
long. It's, I think,
Right, that's
about
true.
3, a little over 3.5,
That's correct.
3.6, something like that. So.
Yeah, so I got my Pocket 6. I got a couple, actually. But the goal was to keep it as short as possible when it's capped. So it's shorter than a Kaweco Sport by about, I think, a quarter of an inch when it's capped. But then when it's posted with the screw post on the back, it's a bit longer than a Kaweco Sport. And it has a seamless body. And the name Pocket 6 comes from, like you had said, the fact that it has a number 6 size nib inside of the pen.
Of the nib.
Yeah,
That's a rather large nib for a pocket pen.
Right. And I owe it to a couple early customers of my ballpoints who were encouraging me as I was getting into manufacturing pens. They said, you should use a 6 nib. And I don't remember who told it to me first, but I remember it was directly from my customer saying, a 5 nib is just not quite, it's not quite as interesting to us as collectors as a 6, and a lot of pocket pens have a 5. So I said, well, how could I fit it in there? And it led me to be very aggressive in terms of the wall thickness of the cap, which a happy accident made the pen very, very light, which was different from my traditional work, because normally my pens are a bit heavier, 1 ounce to 3 ounces for some of the brass pens. So this made the pens quite light. Even the brass one, it's like 1.5 ounces or something like this, and the aluminum one's 0.8 ounces.
And what about these plastic ones?
The the plastic, yes. The black one, it almost looks plastic because it's so light,
It's
but
absolutely not plastic.
it's
But
very thin, yeah, but very
all
thin.
of them, most of them are aluminum, with the exception of you make a brass one.
Yeah, I make a couple different ones. I make a hammered brass. I'm gonna do a stainless steel soon. I'll probably do a titanium pen in the near future. I've got one of the hammered ones here.
I saw that when you posted them.
That's very nice.
And it's gorgeous. I do happen
Thank
to
you.
like hammered pens.
Yeah, I saw it on your feed. Yeah, it's beautiful.
My question to you is, they're a little pricier than your non-hammered pens. Couldn't I just buy the brass one and hammer it myself?
Very well, very well. Best of luck in
throw it
your
under the
journey.
car.
No. Well, it's funny, like the look of a hammered pen. You know, if you hammer the pen, the material has to go somewhere,
Yes.
right?
Yes,
So
you can really see where it is moved. And now this is silver, so I don't know. It's probably a different kind of. You probably have to hammer brass a little harder than you hammer silver. I don't know, but I'm guessing it. But you can see where it has moved out of the way of that hammer in each location, which I imagine makes making a pattern on it, if you're trying to get a pattern out of hammering, quite an undertaking.
Yes, it's there's a lot there. So there's a couple different technologies to making a hammered look pen. You know, you could truly hammer the pen. You know, that's one methodology. I do not do that. I actually carve the material away using a high-speed rotary bit in a Dremel. And I have a really good. I just hired this amazing woman who just moved here from Brooklyn. She worked in architectural hardware, and she's been helping me. I taught her the process that I use to make the hammered pens, and she's been helping me do those. And it's carved. Each divot and dent is an individual touch point with the Dremel
each
tool.
Each pen is completely unique. It is the same method, but a completely different design.
Correct.
Wow.
But I'm working on something where I have in my newer machine, it's called a Swiss style lathe. So it's a lathe, but it has milling capability inside of it. I have a method where I can actually put this tool, the carving tool that we were doing by hand, into that machine and do it a little bit more automated, I would say, like to put the texture in the machine. And I'm curious, I haven't proven it out yet at all, but I'm curious to see if I'll have success here, because it would be really cool to do this pen a little bit more affordable, because I'm doing it in the machine and not putting an hour of handwork into each of the pens, and to see what types of patterns I could get, and repeating, and the technical nature of that is fascinating to me. So I'm excited about that. But I think that Mont Blanc, I'm not sure how they make it. It might even be rolled.
They say it's hammered. It's called a martelé, which means hammered. But from what you're saying, there's no way they went.
It could be.
The Yardelets are made by hand.
Amazing.
And I don't know. There's a lot of shiny light on that. So all of that is done by hand.
Oh my God.
Do you know that trick? If you have to peel a lot of cloves of garlic, where you take two metal bowls, you put the garlic in, you just smash it. That's what Mont Blanc does.
They just put a bunch of pens in and a cylinder.
And that's it.
I think I just learned something about cooking.
Yeah.
Does that really work?
It works. Trust me, it works. Do it tonight.
We missed the whole cooking conversation in this.
I love that.
Before we get into another subject, I'm just going to throw up the picture of the cinnamons, because I like the cinnamons.
Oh, yeah.
They're just warm and they look delicious and they should be eaten. I see that the sections come in either black or brass. Is that a brass section?
That is a brass section. Yes.
I'm going to call it aluminum.
Correct.
I don't know if you're calling it raw aluminum.
Three colors. The silver and the black are anodized. So they're sealed to help a little bit of corrosion resistance there, because we're dealing with fountain pens. We've got corrosive inks. So those are anodized in those two colors. I guess silver is a color maybe. And I'll probably be doing some matching sections where I do the patterning all across the entire pen in the near future.
You're going to have sections that match?
Sections that match, yeah. Oh. Sections that match. I know. Well, with black, I mean, you could have a black section and it matches, and you got all black pen.
Well, when I got my black pen, you didn't have a black section because you have two different kinds of sections, right?
That's correct. And I just finished the black Yovo sections. They literally arrived at my shop on Thursday from my anodizer in Ohio. And yeah, so I have black Yovo, silver Yovo, brass Yovo, and the same for Bach now as well. So I'll be doing both types of nibs because, hey, you know, it's a fountain pen. You should be able to have your cake and eat it too. That's like my analysis of this marketplace. You can have everything, and we should support that. Right? I mean, might as well. It's like.
So
I shouldn't make you pick. Yeah.
I got a brass because I needed the Jovo nib because I went right over to the Franklin Christoph tables and put a flexible nib in it, or actually had them do it for me.
Love it.
But now you're making them for both nibs in all the colors, and someday
Correct.
you will have colors that match the pens.
Potentially, yeah. It's like a limited run, so I'll do like. Because every single time you dye one of these pens, the saturation of the dye is a little different. If you etch it for a little longer or a little shorter, it takes differently. The pattern is a little different, what have you. So when I do like a limited edition, like I did for the Los Angeles Pen Show in February, I did the whole pen as one, all the pieces like kind of a matching color at the same time so that they get that exact same hue. So I'll probably do it a couple times in the year where I'll do like full matching, but it'll be like 10 pieces, 20 pieces. You know, it's not, it's very tricky to do many batches of them because it's harder to match it. And
Gotcha.
it's also, you know, I want to celebrate the choice. You know, I also like the culture of being able to mix and match, because I think that allows people a little bit of freedom to customize. Oh, I want a silver section or something a little bit darker, black section. Or I like the idea of a warm brass that's going to patina, which is, you know, patina in the, I would say the everyday carry or the machined pen marketplace is a big factor. And that's where I come from, you know, like making these machined ballpoints. People want materials that will age and wear in and look beautiful over time and become theirs, become their patina. They've worn it in. And in the fountain pen space, you know, raw brass, it's a little bit controversial because, you know, if you get it covered in ink, it's gonna spot, it's gonna stain. But I like the idea of having these materials that patina, even in the fountain pen space, even though they're a little bit riskier. So I've decided to continue doing brass sections, and maybe people will smile and they'll love how it wears in and like changes and the hue gets darker over time. Other people may get very mad at me and say, it's changed, it's not gold no more, but you can just email me and I'll send you another one. No big deal.
You heard it here first.
Quote me on that.
Just email Ian.
Email me.
Somebody wanted me to show the converter. There is no converter in this. I suppose those Kaweco Sport converters would fit, but they don't hold. They don't hold as much ink as the cartridge will. I tried them and was not fond of them. So this is I mean, nothing wrong with a cartridge, especially when the benefit of this pen is it just fits in your pocket. It just fits in your pocket. It can go anywhere with you.
This is, for me, I wanted to make, like when it all started to come together, I said, I want to make a travel pen, a pen that you can just throw in your suitcase, under the plane, above the plane, inked, and not worry about it. Because when you have a short cartridge, different from a long cartridge or different from a converter or an eyedropper, you have a lower ink volume. And because you have a lower ink volume, you also have a smaller air volume. And that air volume can't expand as much when you're pressurizing it in a plane. Furthermore, if you have the seal on the cap, you create an air volume in the cap, and that air volume gives you a little back pressure into the cartridge, which keeps it from burping. So for me, all these things kind of came together. You know, the nib stays wet, so you can leave it inked for many months.
That makes sense.
You've got the back pressure in the cap. It makes it, you know, you can fly with it without it burping under the plane or above the plane, as long as it's sealed, right? And it's short, it throws in your pocket. So it became the pen, like as I designed these features, became very much a travel pen. So I decided, hey, if I made a longer version of this, those features might not be the same. So I said, well, you know, I'm sure you could use the squeeze converter, and it works fine, but it's like, a cartridge pen in a collection of pens that you have is that pen that you can just throw and go. And for me, that's kind of a special like addition to the landscape that we don't have very many of.
Throw in your pocket and head out the door, and just I don't treat this pen very nicely, but it treats me very nicely. I have no problem with cartridges because I just refill them with the ink of my choice using a syringe.
Right.
There are questions in the comment section. Do you make the fountain pen with a clip?
Great question. So initially, I had actually designed the pen with a clip that sat under a finial on the top of the cap. And I ended up, when I launched at DC, I couldn't tool up the clip. It was too expensive. The lead times were a little bit too long. So I said, if I'm going to launch anything at Washington, DC Pen Show 2019, it's going to be without a clip. So I made what I called the prototype batch of the Pocket 6. And it had no clip. It was as is. I numbered them and I put them out there. And it was so popular that design became the Pocket 6.
So this was
initially
this was supposed to be a prototype on the way to becoming the Pocket 6, but this is
Correct.
the Pocket 6. All right.
Correct.
So
and the clip, if I were to screw it into the cap like I did my ballpoint pens, it would create an air path,
right.
an ingress that would alleviate the pressure through the cap. When you're sealing it, it would make it less travel friendly. And I'd have to, if I did the finial design, which I'd like to do in the future, it will have to have a secondary seal in the finial to make sure that cap remains pressurized.
Okay, so you're thinking maybe in the future
it will happen.
It will happen. Okay.
Yeah, I'm navigating it. I'm having trouble with the design because the minute you add a clip, especially in a good material for a clip, being a steel or titanium with some springiness, right? You're adding a bit of weight to the back of the pen, and it's all the way on the tip of the cap. So there's a tension there in the design. So for me, it's like I'm working on a new pen right now. I'll tell you, and
you're hearing it here first.
It is. You're hearing it here first.
The Pocket 7, the Pocket 8.
The Pocket 100, no. 2001, a Pocket Pen Odyssey. So it's a full-size pen, and it is a it doesn't post.
Okay.
And it's got a converter inside. It's also got an option for a unique filling system that I'm working on. And that pen, I think, solves the clip problem elegantly, and prevents you from having a pen that's tilted too far back because of the weight by having the cap just not post. And it was a tension for a while design-wise. Do I even want to make a pen that doesn't post? And personally, I always post my pens. But my customers kept telling me at the shows, hey, I don't always post my pens. I never post. I don't post this. That doesn't post. Right.
Love this pen.
And I didn't.
Post. And I
didn't
usually
understand that
pens,
culture. Yeah.
I mean, I post yours because you have to, and it's got the threads on the end. I don't know if we made that point to the audience, but there are threads on the end. So posting it, you just screw it on and you got a full-size pen. So when is this new pen coming out?
I have no idea.
No idea. Another question from the comments is, do you have any plans of making plastic sections for people, I didn't catch it all, that don't want to handle the metal?
Yes.
The answer is yes, you do have plans for that?
Yes.
Okay.
I have plans for it. I'm going to make them in Delrin. And
is that a city?
I also have another...
Is that a city?
Delrin, yeah. Oh, yes. It's another part of Philadelphia. No, I'll be making them in Delrin, and I'm working on what I'm calling like the brutalist section, which is just straight. It has no curve. Because what I've noticed is when you create a curve on a section, you create a pivot point. Like when you have a curve here, right? It allows it to be like a ball and socket joint, your fingers and the pen. But if you have a shaft, you have a straight line, you have a bit more of a firm grip on it. So I noticed that when working with this pen and another pen that I designed for someone else that I manufactured for them. And I realized I really like a straight grip, even though it doesn't look as good. Even though it looks more comfortable to have the curve, in reality it is not. So I'm going to be making straight sections as well, because I think they'll be just slightly more comfortable for people who don't like holding such a small section.
Gotcha.
And I'll be making them in plastic in the future.
Okay. And there's like 15 people asking in chat, when will you make one of silver?
So like silver?
Yes. Silver.
Oh my gosh. Well, I made a silver anodized aluminum, which I thought would keep people at bay for a moment. I made a silver color.
We want silver. Silver.
Oh my god. I don't know. So there's a really an interesting tension with my work is that I have chosen what I call a particular type of karate for my pen manufacturing. Like there's many different types of ways to make a pen. And when you're dealing with silver, normally you're going to want to work from a tube or a sheet, and you're going to want to form the parts and braze them together, and you're not going to want to work from a solid bar of silver because you're going to be drilling out all that material, making lots of chips, and it's not quite suited to working from bar stock. So my particular karate for the way I make my pens is using 12-foot long bars and a sliding headstock lathe, which is a specific type of lathe that allows you to have a more rigid cutting. But it's terribly suited for cast materials. It's terribly suited for silver and precious materials. So it's challenging. I think I'd have to actually buy a different like piece of equipment and come up with an entirely different manufacturing method to make the exact same object in a different material.
All of the people who didn't talk about that in chat are now disappointed, which was only me.
I'm sorry.
It's only me.
I'm sorry. I will. I think one day doing some more precious materials and changing the way I manufacture things to accommodate some new form of artistry will be on docket. But frankly, I moved to Philadelphia literally, it was a year ago. April 1st is when I moved into my new workshop. That was when I started integrating all of the manufacturing in-house. So I'm still like a baby in terms of the amount of capability and how I'm using this equipment to manufacture fountain pens. And I'm learning so much so fast that I think once I get comfortable in it, and once I have the pocket sixes on the shelf and I've got product to sell, I'll start experimenting a little bit more again. I'll start making some of those weirder nibs that I was manufacturing that I may have showed you.
Well, no.
Yeah, I'll start working back on those.
Somewhere too.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, so. we'll wait for that while you work through everything else you're working on. Is there anything I forgot to ask you that you wish I had asked you?
Do you like cinnamon raisin bread?
I do, and I like raisins, especially if they're plump.
All right. I want to clear the air. I want to make sure I'm not alone here.
No.
I mean,
cinnamon raisin.
I respect
bread is
everybody's decisions. I respect everybody's decisions when it comes to the dried fruit of their choice.
Oh yeah, I mean, Aziza is allowed not to care for raisins, but you're not even allowed to say it in her presence. That's taking it a bit far. Wouldn't you say,
It's more
Dr.
than
Brown?
not caring. It's a deep hatred, I'm
It's
afraid.
a deep hatred. A hatred
Dios
or a
mío.
phobia?
A hatred bordering on phobia.
What about a grape?
Oh no,
Grape's
she's back
cool?
in the chat.
No, grapes
She's
are
here.
fine,
She's
but
here.
grapes are just raisins in the
fine,
making.
okay.
I think one Christmas I did get her a great big box.
Yes, I remember that.
Yes, she probably still has
That's
it.
brutal. That's just mean.
Yeah.
That's just mean.
Yeah, that's me. I have nothing else. I'll leave it to you
Yeah,
guys. I do want to say thank you very much for being here, Ian. It
Yes,
was
it was
fantastic chatting with
Very
you and
interesting.
listening to everything you have to
Thank
say.
you.
You are always engaging and always positive. And I didn't cough because I didn't mean what I just said. And so
No, it's all good.
it was nice to sit here and listen to you. And
Yeah,
I hope we've introduced your pen to a few extra people. I do suggest that people follow you on Instagram. I like what you post there, even if it's not just pens, not you dancing. What is your name on Instagram?
It's at Schon SCHON _ DSGN.
Okay, so it's just
So
like
at
your
Schon
web
_DSGN.
address, but there's an
Yeah.
underscore between the
It's
Schon and the
underscore.
design.
And I've been posting a healthy ratio of dance videos to pen manufacturing nerdery. So I think you'll find something for you. Hopefully, that's the idea. And I'm alone in the shop, so send me some messages if you want a video chat to see some of the pens in person. That's totally cool. We can keep this digital pen show going. I did have a digital pen show over the weekend. It was quite fun. I chatted with a lot of customers I hadn't met, but I've known their names for years. And I chatted with pen show friends. I ended up running out of time, which was a great surprise to catch up with everyone. So if you signed up for a slot and I didn't talk to you, I'm sorry, but I'll get back to you this week and we'll find some time. But feel free to reach out and I'll give you a little tour of the workshop via FaceTime or Instagram, and I'll show you some of the pens that I've made. And if you want to pick one out, that's totally cool. If not, that's fine as well. But I could show you all the different colors and we could talk about the additions together. So I think this, I really appreciate you guys having me on here today. It was super fun. This is my first pen podcast I've ever done, actually. As I'm honored. I'm honored.
It's our first one too, so.
And I hope to see
we
you
learned
both
together.
at the
at the next pen show, whenever that might be.
Whenever it may be.
They're all up in the
Even
air
if
at the moment.
Even if it's several years from now, I look forward to it with great anticipation. And it's what do they say? Distance makes the heart grow fonder. Distance makes the raisins plumper. And makes them a grape.
I do have to say, Ian, the comment section is filled with people just saying thank you for being here, and that doesn't happen when it's just Stephen and I. So it's all for you. Thank you for being here. And that's it for me. What about you, Mr. Brown, Dr. Brown, Professor Brown?
No, I have little to say.
You have little to say? Like a little pen, perhaps? You don't have one of these.
I don't have
Ian,
one
we
of
have to
these.
fix this, because if you don't know who Stephen Brown is, he kind of talks about pens on his YouTube channel. It might be nice if he talked about one of these.
Yeah.
So
Shucks, I'll send you a pen.
We'll put the two of you
We'll work
together.
that out.
And we'll get that taken care of. So to your audience,
I've been wanting to try one out. I've just not been to a pen shop yet, so I haven't had the opportunity / pleasure.
we will find someone to send you a pen. Yes,
We'll find
this.
For your audience, never fear, the Stephen Brown review, where he tells you what he likes about it, what he doesn't like about it, and does what do you still do the writing sample?
Still do the writing sample.
I haven't watched one in years.
Nor should you. They're boring.
I do watch them. If there's a new pen, if I run across a pen that I'm not familiar with and I want to know about it, I will go to Google and put the name of the pen. You are the first one that comes up, and I watch your video. And and then of course I call you and say, now what do you really think?
Yeah, exactly. I'm so happy when that happens, and I think what a wonderful life I've had. Right? Like, how much time have I invested in reviewing, criticizing other people's work, and it's like I often feel as a reviewer, I feel like someone who goes to a birthday party, doesn't bring any gifts, but does comment on everyone else's gift. So it's a very interesting position to be in, but why not, right?
Yeah. I love that.
That's Dr. Brown.
Oh my God.
Thank you, gentlemen, for being here. I am going to click buttons now to take us off the air. I will tell you when we're off the air. Don't do anything until we're off the air.